You know what I find disturbing? There are no more video games or movies that depict a totalitarian society. I mean, you're going to have a couple of video games or movies that are like, yeah, Nazi bad, Nazi this, Nazi that. And maybe like Wolfenstein, where you get to shoot Nazis, but very few games and movies actually explore how a totalitarian society looks like, how life for the average civilian is like under a totalitarian dictatorship that restricts the freedoms of its citizens and tries to suppress information. So I'm going to recommend the game from the past. It's got really bad graphics and it's a point and click adventure game if you're into those. But it is so absolutely amazing at describing things that we're going to see not only in the future, but some of them we actually see today. And the game is called The Moment of Silence. It has you playing as a person working for a PR company, which is hired by the government, in order to push for the free speech project. So the game starts where you get to notice your neighbor, which is a journalist, have a SWAT team break into the middle of the night and just take him away. No due process, no nothing. And as you call the police in order to find out what happened to your neighbor, you find out that the police doesn't know about it. They didn't send any SWAT team to his house. So it begins like a mystery where you're supposed to investigate and find out why he was arrested and where he has been taken into. Now, what's really interesting about the game, though, is the Free Speech Project, the project that your company is working at. And what this is in order to combat terrorism, the government decided that everyone should have access to all the information that exists in the world. In other words, encryption is banned. No form of security exists anymore, and these things will be considered illegal. So you're not allowed to have books anymore at all. Any type of material that cannot be accessed by others or the government is now illegal. So what you would have to do would be to give this book to the government, and the government would then publish everything that's in this book. They would publish it online. Obviously, paper was considered illegal. You would have smartphones to replace paper. Like everything was electronic. So none of this. And what ended up happening, like as you play the game, you find out that the government was being dishonest. That they would censor certain books. Like they would take your book, and if the book was problematic, they would either modify parts of the book to make it acceptable, or they would just outright remove pages from it as they published it online, and then they would destroy this copy. So a lot of the information that was being pushed was changing history, was removing things of the past, and the people wouldn't know. Because if you didn't live in that area and you had absolutely no more evidence of that thing happening, it didn't exist. And the game makes really good on predicting certain technologies that will exist in the future. I think the game is maybe in the 2000s or something like that. It's a very old game. And already, everyone is wearing smartphones. Everyone is having access to this technology that at the time wasn't as popular. And it also promotes the idea of Skype calls where you go online and you have like these virtual chats with other people, and you can use an avatar in order to hide yourself. And the places where the game takes you is really cool. Like there are some really nice cyberpunk places. You get to see the wealth disparity in certain neighborhoods where you go into the poor area of town and it's really run down, and the people living there are having difficulties adapting. And then you go into the rich area of town, which is like this futuristic utopia, where basically no one that works there for the big companies get to experience what the poverty is like for the rest of the people. So the people at the companies, they're very ideologically motivated. They think like there's no problems in the world, everything is good because they're shielded. They actually live in these bubbles where they're completely removed from all the other problems. Now, the reason I say that this is reminding me of the present a little bit is what I am noticing as a very disturbing trend on the internet. And It's the same like 4 years ago when you noticed a little bit of censorship on Reddit, a little bit of censorship on Facebook. Like 4 years ago, the idea of a company censoring people based on ideology was just insane. Like no one would even accept it. No one would even say, yeah, no, that's okay. Nowadays, it's just commonplace. Like the terms of service in 2020 are much more strict than they were in 2016. But in 2016, you could notice that it's starting to happen, right? And it's the same trend that I see now. So one of the big problems that exist on the internet today are archive links, because you can easily call the mainstream media out. Like you can call companies out on certain behaviors, and people that are in power and activists find it inconvenience for their ideology when you point out to certain things in the past. So I will make a completely different video explaining why there is a war against Archive IS. But we also see Google just removing documents from Google Drive. Like someone that wants to save, let's say, a documentary. I think it was like Plandemic or something like that. I've never watched it, I don't care. But like the idea that you can have something and you store it for your own use. You store it somewhere on a cloud. And the company can just delete it. It's mind-baffling for me because, yeah, sure, that you can make the argument that they're a private company and they can have the right to delete it. But the fact that they're doing it is very concerning in a world where more and more people are moving to the cloud. So these companies in the future are going to have access to a lot of the information, to a lot of stuff that people put online and they can't save anywhere else. Like it might even go to the point where you might have like an update on your computer and it might remove certain things. Again, like, you know, my private company can do whatever it wants. Like a perfect example in the video gaming world, since this is a gaming channel, I guess, would be Warcraft 3, right? Like you have Warcraft 3, but if you install it, you have to patch it if you want to play online. And if you patch it, they take you to the new broken version of the game, you know, like Warcraft 3 Defucked. You guys know what I'm talking about. And this new version of the game is really bad compared to the ones that existed before. You know, like this is just an example. It's just like, look, they can do this, is what I'm trying to explain. It's like something that you have can then have a patch that makes it worse than what you used to have. And the only place to save the information are the clouds, you know. I guess like USB is still a thing for now, but I'm curious like for how long it's going to last. It's like, you know, like floppy disks. Like the moment technology advances and it becomes better and better, outdated forms of technology like floppy disks become irrelevant. CD-ROMs, like my computer doesn't have a DVD-ROM anymore. Used to have, doesn't have anymore. So like all of the information is now moved towards the clouds, where companies that are for profit can at one point just decide, yeah, we want to just purge this information. Like all of it, boom, gone. And this is like very similar to this game where, you know, in this case, the government could just go like, yeah, we don't want this type of knowledge to exist anymore. Boom, gone. Everywhere, like, deleted. And this is why I think they're not making games which show how a totalitarian society would look like and how a dictatorship would look like, because people would freak out. Like they would be like, oh, wow, well, isn't that similar to day-to-day life? I mean, here's an example. The last one was the Fahrenheit movie, where, you know, like firemen were going around burning books and stuff. A lot of social justice activists complain that it's right-wing propaganda, that it's far-right propaganda, and I'm like, why is it far-right? Like any type of like even a far-right government, if it gets into power, could do the same, you know, just burn down books in order to destroy certain aspects of history and the past that would inconvenience them. It's like any dictatorship could do this regardless of political leaning. Why do you think it's far-right? You know, like this is so interesting. Like the Nazis used to burn books, right? And it's the same thing here. And like the thing that's interesting is like the book burning of the Nazis. Like a lot of people are abhorred by the symbolism of burning a book, but not the reason they were doing it. Because the reason they were doing it was to make sure that no one has access to that information. Back then, books were the primary way information would get passed from a person to another. You destroy the book, the information is gone. Nowadays, people don't use books anymore. When's the last time you actually read the book? Be honest. You know, like most people read books online. You can use PDF, or you can use various programs to just read a book online. I prefer to read the book online. I can use the Control F function. I can just, you know, go from page to page, whatever I want. It's a lot easier. Maybe some other people still prefer classics, but you're a dying breed. Like, let's be honest, most kids nowadays don't read books. And if you remove the online information, you make it so that people can't access that information. It's the same principle, really. It's like book burning. It is the same. Like, you want people to be prevented from gaining access to the information. It's why Nigel Farage got banned recently from his radio show. So people don't get to listen to him. And it's not that people decide, okay, we're going to stop listening to him because we don't agree with what he's... No. You have a bigger entity. And in this case, I don't care if it's the government, I don't care if it's religion, I don't care if it's a corporation. The idea is the same. Like, you have an entity bigger than just the random individual deciding, no, the masses are not allowed to have access to this information. And again, legally they can't do it. Like, just the Nazis, like a lot of people forget when they burned books, the books that they burned were things from public libraries, things that people donated. Like, that's how it started. You know, it didn't start like they were stealing the books in the beginning. Later on, they did steal the books, but in the beginning, it's like was books that people donated, and it was like, I think they started with pornography and other books they considered of sexual deviancies, so that people can't really defend it. Because, like, you're not going to defend, it's like, oh, stop banning porn. It's like, oh, so you're a pervert. You know, that's how it starts. And then it moves on and on and on until you reach to going to philosophers and people that they consider to be anti-patriotic and so on and so forth. Anyway, thank you for listening. Do play this game. This game is amazing. If you can stomach the old graphics, that is. And let me know what you think in the comment section. Take care.